So let's switch over and talk a little bit about somewhat of the elephant in the room. Uh, you can't like exist in this industry right now without talking about AI, and we've already sort of like touched on some of the cases, right? You were talking about like generation not being just like a one shot process, being this like process of you don't want to just like generate code. It's like you want to sort of like meet developers and designers where they're at and sort of like enhance their workflows. So given that like AI is like taking up, or LLMs have taken up so much of our mind share now, how are you internally thinking about like where AI has a place at Figma and how it can be leveraged to sort of help people in their design process?
I think there's just, I mean, because AI is at the basic level of technology rather than a product in and of itself. I think there's just so many different ways you can apply it, especially in the context of the ecosystem that we're creating in Figma. There's a couple different like kind of extremes that we tend to kind of anchor ourselves on just for the sake of discussion and alignment. I think like Noah, our head of design at our config a couple years ago, sort of laid out this kind of framework of thinking around like using AI to lower the floor for design so that more people can participate in this design process. And as I said, it's not just about using the design tool; it's also about figuring out how to bring designs to life and handle all the different responsive edge cases and whatnot. I think we can also raise the ceiling of what people can create. I think like Figma is a testament to the fact that like differences in degree can yield differences in kind, and we've been able to basically really focus on these key performance optimizations and making things available in the browser so that it's that much easier to share. And you see like different ways that people now use our tool and different use cases as we just talked about. And so I think AI can really kind of like help to kind of raise the bar for the kind of creativity that professionals can express and the kinds of ideas they can bring to production. And I think even if you're just like speeding up that process, ultimately you're going to enable more iteration and you're going to enable better experiences as a result. So those are kind of like the two extremes that I think are interesting to anchor on. I think that like as we were talking about before, I think there's like a little bit of nuance too. So I think like on the base level, you think AI, okay, it's going to like enable me to make something out of a prompt. But as we just talked about, that's not actually what professionals want, right? Like it's kind of like, at the end of the day, you can only be so expressive with natural language. And I think like for those of us who are engineers, like we know that at a certain point when you're pair coding with someone, you just want to grab the keyboard and change things directly. You don't want to have to keep telling people how to change things. I think in the same way, you don't want to just keep telling this model like, no, you didn't get what I said. I really meant this thing in the top right or whatever. So I think that we're like really excited about exploring for our own use cases how to marry the best of these new input modalities that the technology unlocks, like natural language, maybe voice someday and whatnot, with like existing interfaces and direct manipulation, and in trying to give people the choice so that maybe when you're just kind of roughly trying to visualize someone else's idea, you can ask the tool to kind of help you get started, but do it in a way that is consistent with your brand and your identity and your existing code base. But then you still can just like grab the keyboard or grab the mouse and go click on the thing and like drag a color wheel and figure it out, and build up your own strong mental model, so you can reason about it better for yourself rather than relying on some random model to do so with the context you give it. So I think there's just a ton of opportunity for us, and we're excited about all aspects of it. I think we're excited about helping people explore the design solution space faster. We're also excited about how to help designers do more of the productionization inside of the tool, and then engineers basically consume that more directly. So basically trying to figure out how to infer a lot of the kind of implicit context that we all take for granted that actually takes a lot of time and is very tedious to make explicit.
Yeah, I like how you guys are approaching it. It's like a lot of AI tools are like one shot, I'm just going to generate everything. I have no ability to like go in and tweak it. And like you wouldn't want something like that in Figma. And you guys aren't just stopping at like generation. You're also like where I find AI features like really sing is when you don't have a prompt and like AI is away from your mind. So an example of that is common problem in Figma. You make this huge design, you go look at the sidebar and go, wow, I'm never going to be able to organize that into something a human can understand. Like using AI to organize that, I think is such an awesome feature because it's like, that's not work I want to do as a human, but it's work that I need to be like fully expressive and productive in this tool. So I love all those little tiny features that are more like baked into the UI rather than just like, here's a box and we'll do stuff for you.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Yeah, no, definitely. I think we've been trying to think through like how do we balance what these models can do off the shelf that are immediately valuable to the existing workflow of our customers with like what are the capabilities that we need to help these models learn or grow into in order to really unlock kind of Figma specific power-ups. So we're working on both fronts simultaneously.
Are there any specific implementations or features that are either shipped or in progress that you are particularly excited about?
I'm also excited about the layer renaming feature that we just talked about. I think that it's just such a simple thing that goes a long ways towards just actually doing something that a lot of people don't like doing, but is actually very helpful. I think that there's work we're doing to automatically explore how to like set up Code Connect and things like that as well. Like so many people are excited about Code Connect in our community. I just went to this developer conference in Berlin a couple months ago, and we actually had like the longest booth at the conference, the longest line to our booth, which was really cool to see. We didn't expect it, but at the same time, like it still takes time to set up, and we want to try to make that as streamlined and seamless as possible. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to do better there.
Sort of like a last sort of like category question here on just like the implications of AI and like inner tooling. So you started this by saying, it's like one of the things that we see is like it can really like lower the barrier of entry. It's like more people can get in and start like expressing their ideas and design. So do you think like AI and LLMs or maybe even its specific application inside of Figma will be something that sort of like changes what it means to be a designer or like how you interface with designs, and maybe the same for like an engineer, like how you go through the design process?
Yeah, I think so maybe taking a step back. So I think like one of the things that it's always easy to like kind of imagine what could be, but I think one thing I feel pretty strongly about is one part of like being an engineer is having sort of the persistence and the desire to learn specific technologies and specific tools. And those tools are, oftentimes changing year over year, decade over decade. And I think like even within like the field of like product engineering or front end engineering for that matter, we've seen like specializations emerge over the years. And I think on some level, some of us have been like a little like uneasy with it. It's like, why is this like specific new like framework, getting like higher job offers than this other framework, which ostensibly is like, requires the same level of aptitude and expertise and engineering knowledge. And so I think like, there's a reason for that. Just like, some of these things are valuable at the time, and finding someone who has that expertise already is super valuable. But I think like one of the things we're going to see is like that sort of expertise is easier to come by virtue of these models helping us find it, helping contextualize it, helping translate things more rapidly. And you could say like, oh gosh, that's like a bad thing. But like the reality is like that was already happening. Like very quickly, those like specific roles, like maybe like a, early days of mobile, like mobile engineer, that they like the value of being specialized decreased as it became more normal. And I think on some level, I think like AI has the potential to really kind of like help us focus on the essence of what it means to be a maker. And there'll still be like opportunity to kind of maybe focus more on like the ideation and alignment phase of building versus the productionization and system design phase. But at the end of the day, I'm actually kind of like excited to see like how it might help us as makers really like get to the essence of our craft and what we do, rather than focus on some of the just pure like memorization, like implementation detail kind of things that really aren't why most of us got into what we do in the first place. So I'm excited to see that shift. I think it could actually be a really good thing. And then I also am excited to see people like have the kind of courage as a result to wear more hats and like collaborate more strongly with one another, so that we don't have these like waterfall handoff processes. We have like just really strong collaboration where, yeah, one person might be constantly trying to kind of envision like the kind of next, opportunity, or, visualize it in a way that brings the rest of the team along. And another person is working on, making sure it really sings and works well and is a part of like a cohesive, maintainable system. But they're also working together, and like they're giving each other feedback at both ends of the spectrum much faster, much more rapidly. And as a result, you see a lot more innovation and just more excitement, and people don't feel like they're just doing downstream work from someone else. So I think a lot of that stuff is going to happen as we sort of democratize the specialization. But I think there's still going to be room for people to really like focus on the aspects of the process that they were always excited about in the first place.